Good morning and welcome to another episode here at the Damage Report. I am John Iadarola. Today is Tuesday and it's a very exciting Tuesday for at least two reasons. The first is that this is my last show of the week. I'm going to be going to Lee's Summit, Missouri to politically detox and recuperate from a bit of burnout. And during the time that I'm away, Francesca Fiorentini will be taking over as well as Brett Ehrlich. So that's very exciting. But even that pales in comparison. The announcement that I have for you right now. Joining me for the first time as a co-host on the show, Senator Nina Turner.
Hello.
Nina, how's it going?
It's going well, John. How are you today?
I'm doing well. I started to suspect in the run-up to today's show that I had revealed too much, so I blatantly lied on the pre-show and said that my friend Quay was going to be co-hosting. But no, it's you. You've been on the show a number of times, but this is the first time as a co-host, so we're very excited to have you here.
Yeah, I'm so glad to be with you, and yes, several times. I feel like I'm back home.
I think so. By the way, the Twitch chat is just your face over and over and over again. They're very excited about that.
Thank you, Twitch chat. Yes.
Yes. So look, obviously, I and many of the people in the audience have been a big supporter of what you're trying to accomplish for a number of years, and the experience and perspective you're going to bring to the show is already much appreciated. So thank you.
Well, my pleasure. Glad to be with you. And
glad to have you here. And we're glad to have everyone in the audience here as well, regardless of what platform you're on. Thank you for being here. Over the course of the next 90 minutes or so, we're gonna talk about a lot. We're gonna be jumping into not only some of the controversy coming out of the Met Gala last night and some of the attached vaccine related controversy. We're also gonna be talking about infrastructure, Kyrsten Sinema's spreadsheets, voting rights, and a whole bunch more. We're actually gonna have a bit of a throwback to close out the show. A political figure that most people have forgotten about, possibly hinting at a comeback. So we'll be talking about that a little bit later on. Along the way, if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button and sharing the stream, that would be great. And if you want to send us comments, tweets, super chats, anything like that, we'll respond as we go. But that said, Nina, you ready to talk about some news?
Yes, do that.
Okay, let's do it. By the way, heads up to the audience, it's gonna start off weird. So anyway, last night's Met Gala produced a couple different controversies, but the one that really tore up Twitter had to do with Nicki Minaj, someone who in fact was not actually at the Met Gala, but in tweeting about it started talking a bit about vaccination and side effects. And it has resulted in her becoming basically the most attacked person online over the last 24 hours or so. So what did she actually say? Well, she tweeted, "My cousin in Trinidad won't get the vaccine because his friend got it and became impotent. His testicles became swollen. His friend was weeks away from getting married. Now the girl called off the wedding. So just pray on it and make sure you're comfortable with your decision, not bullied." The connection to the Met is that what she also tweeted, they want you to get vaccinated for the Met. If I get vaccinated, it won't be for the Met. It'll be once I feel I've done enough research. I'm working on that now. In the meantime, my loves, be safe. Wear the mask with 2 strings that grips your head and face, not that loose one. Now, some people have presented that last tweet as her saying she was not going to the Met Gala because they require you to get vaccinated. She is not happy with that characterization of her comments. And admittedly, she doesn't say that, but the language is a bit loose, so I understand why there's a misconception. In any event, Nina, there's a lot there in those 2 tweets, and it's about something that people have strong feelings about vaccination, and even stronger feelings about the Met Gala. So what do you think?
Well, let's talk about the good, which is Nicki Minaj talked about research, that's a great thing. We do want people to research and look into these matters and not just listen to any source, but listen to trusted sources and listen to what the medical doctors have to say about it. The other good part about it was she said wear the mask, which is good. We want people, whether they're vaccinated or not, especially if they are in larger crowds, to please, please, please wear the mask. Now, the other part about her cousin, and there are a lot of mischaracterizations and misunderstandings out there about the vaccine and the heightened fear that people have. What I do like, John, is the fact that there is a young lady, and I want our viewers to go and watch her. Her name is Dr. Raven, the science maven on Twitter. And she did a whole rap to the incredible Nicki Minaj about the vaccine from a scientific point of view and a rap, no doubt. And this intellectual, she is meeting people where they are. So instead of ridiculing people or criticizing them or talking down to them, she said, Nicki, here's a rap that breaks down the vaccine and what it does. And I'm telling you, John, it is absolutely magnificent. So I want folks to go to Dr. Raven, the science maven, on Twitter and listen to her cool, hip, and scientifically based response.
That sounds great. The fact that she came up with that so quickly after the guy, that's really impressive. I do like that.
It is very much so.
And I'm glad that you acknowledge the good, like she does push for masking and stuff like that. So look, I'm not interested in just piling on Nicki Minaj. Certainly, a lot of people have already done it. And look, it's complicated because, of course, she has a lot of followers, and so people are worried about the spread of misinformation. But she's also a singer. Like, she's not a scientist. She's not a politician. That doesn't mean that she shouldn't be responsible or whatever. But like, she never on Twitter, I don't think, said, by the way, follow me for your medical information. So who knows? And piling on her might make her less likely to, maybe correct this a bit at some point. But what I will say is that I feel a bit bad for the cousin in Trinidad, and especially bad for the friend, because man, they did not know they would become the worldwide focus of conversation. What I will also say is that the speculation I have seen is that if the story is accurate as it's being presented, that this guy became impotent, had his testicles swell, and then his girlfriend called off their wedding, that sounds more like the result of an STI than a vaccine side effect. But I, like Nicki Minaj, am not a doctor. And so,
And you don't play one on TV either, John.
No, I don't. I watch it, but I don't.
Yeah, I mean, this is a complicated situation. Nicki, at least from what I read in her tweets, was telling a story based on some information she got from her cousin. Let's just put that right there. There are all kinds of other issues surrounding this story, as you just laid out, John, that we may not ever know the other details to. Piling on Nicki Minaj makes absolutely no sense. I think people need to do more of what the good doctor did, and just really get in there and try to help people understand the vaccine, what is behind the vaccine, what is the scientific basis of the vaccine, and why we must get to herd immunity, not just in this country, but in the world. So instead of using that information, or instead of using energy, in my opinion, to pile on to Nicki Minaj, other than pointing out, Nicki, maybe you shouldn't have shared this story without having all of the other medical facts, I think that's a fair assessment to make. But just jumping on Nicki Minaj over her comments doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Let's just try to make this right and get people the best information that we can about the vaccine and why it is important to get vaccinated.
Agreed. And I will now do that. I mean, not really me. I'm gonna read what much smarter doctors have said about this. And look, in general terms, we've done thousands of COVID stories and hundreds about vaccination. So everybody watching this knows that you're far more likely to survive a bout with COVID if you're vaccinated. You're far less likely to be hospitalized, experience bad side effects of COVID. But this has raised the topic of fertility, the reproductive system, and all that. So let's focus a little bit on that. Currently, according to the CDC, there's no evidence that shows that any vaccines, including COVID-19 vaccines, cause male fertility problems. A recent small study of 45 healthy men who received an mRNA COVID-19 vaccine looked at sperm characteristics like quantity and movement before and after vaccination. Researchers found no significant changes in those sperm characteristics after vaccination. So that's about fertility, but there was also brought up the impotence thing. So bear in mind, COVID-19 can cause swelling and inflammation in the penis. It can also damage blood vessels and lower or prevent blood from reaching tissues and organs. If blood can't reach your penis, having an erection will be more difficult. And certainly there's been a lot of talk throughout the pandemic about that. So if your fear is impotence, fear less the vaccine than the virus that could potentially do real damage to you. And by the way, fever from illness has been associated with short-term decrease in sperm production in healthy men. Although fever can be a side effect of COVID vaccination, there is no current evidence that fever after COVID vaccination affects sperm production. But the fever from COVID in theory could. So I am glad that the topic of, people take this seriously. It's reproduction and men certainly take it seriously. Get vaccinated. That seems like your best protection. Any thoughts?
I mean, fever accompanies lots of illnesses too, John. So let's just put this out there. And I know the heightenedness, I was just not feeling well, called a love bug, as one of my dear friends called it from my beloved minister of cuteness, my grandson. But I had a really severe cold, and some of the symptoms were rendering as if it could have been COVID, although I am vaccinated. And the first thing my team said, S&T, go get the test. And I did, COVID free. It was a severe cold. And so having the chills or having a fever, you can get that with the common cold. You can get that with having the flu, a whole host of viruses that we have come to have to live with and try to tame over the course of human existence. And so I'm so glad that you read what the medical experts have to say on this issue. The bottom line is, please go see a doctor if you have any symptoms. Don't listen. John and I, we are not doctors. All we can do is share the medical information that is out there. But what is not controversial is that if you are not feeling well for any reason, please, for the love of God, go see a doctor.
100%. And as you point out, like you're vaccinated. I've talked about being vaccinated. I posted a photo of me being vaccinated. You are much less likely to get COVID, but it is still possible. And so you still need to be responsible. I announced in the beginning of the show, I'm gonna be taking the rest of the week off. It's a trip I had planned months ago to go to Gen Con in Indianapolis, which I have missed during this pandemic. I'm not going, actually. I'm instead going to my friend Quay's house. That's it, to avoid being in big crowds. It sucks. I really miss going to conventions, but it's still a pandemic. So do everything you can to protect yourself. That starts with vaccination, but that's hardly the end of it. We were gonna go into a bit about Tucker Carlson. He routinely takes artists, especially women of color like Nicki Minaj, and attacks them as signs of moral decline and stuff like that. Well, he suddenly found a reason to defend her. I have a feeling he'll go back to attacking her in the very near future. So I'm not actually gonna play the video, but did you have any thoughts about that, Senator Turner?
Tucker Carlson is gonna Tucker Carlson. I mean, really.
That's all he knows how to do.
Yeah, I'm just gonna leave it right there, John. I'm with you on this one. Just gonna leave it right there.
Okay, I really go back and forth. He's got a lot of audience, and so sometimes I want to rebut the things he says, but seeing his stupid face makes me sick, so I can't often do it. Anyway, we are gonna take our first break though, everybody, and read some of your comments and all of that. But when we come back, we'll be talking about the infrastructure bill, Senator Kyrsten Sinema, and voting rights as well. The Democrats have a new bill. We'll be breaking down what it does and what it doesn't do after this. Okay, everybody, let's see what's going on out there in the audience. There was one topic that was raised in a lot of your comments, and that is Nina Turner. Prison Mike Dragon sent in a super chat saying, "Nina, hello, some dragon." Angela says, "Nina, best way to start a Tuesday. Please send some anti-migraine vibes my way." Christina asks, "Nina, what's your thoughts on Morgan Harper running in our home state?" I think it was just announced, actually.
Yeah, she run, Morgan, run. The more people the merrier. I am not one of those that try to talk people out of it. That's what a primary is for, just in case people didn't get the memo.
Exactly.
It's a place where we have robust debate, and people should run if they want to. So run, Morgan, run.
100%. Yeah, I believe we had Morgan Harper on back during her last run. We almost certainly will now as well. So everyone stay tuned for that. Let's see. I forgot to announce the poll. I'm gonna have to do it as soon as we come back from the break. But for right now, Tim Bredden says, just as you don't take your boat into the desert to go boating, you don't go where the money isn't to tax the rich. That is a reference, of course, to Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and we will be talking about that with the poll when we come back. Steven says, my brother has a YouTube with thousands of followers and he posts anti-vax stuff. I tried to reason with him, but he just called me a socialist who worships big pharma. I'm scared he will get people sick. Well, that makes sense. Everybody knows that true socialists worship corporations. I don't understand people. I just don't. Ugh.
Oh.
Forrest Dudley says, wait, hold up. Nina's team calls her SNT. That's fire. I like that too, actually. I noticed that.
Yeah, S&T, or I don't know, John, I'm thinking about adopting TNT.
Oh, I like it.
Nina Turner, but the whole reference to the TNT, fire, baby, dynamite, yes. Explosive.
Moondragon says Nina is awesome. Nina is power. Nina will conquer. And Dynamite Dragon says Moxie Queen Nina Turner. Yeah, there's a lot of comments about you. I've seen a lot of hello somebodies in the Twitch chat as well from RC Tycoon. Melissa the Defender says Nina Turner OMG. Yeah, apologies everyone for lying to you in the pre-show. I am not like Tucker Carlson. I try not to lie when I'm backed into a corner, but I had to protect the spoiler there. Let's see, Doc Brown subscribed for 10 months on Twitch, says, 10 months with Bezos, Bucks, and Nina. Thank you, much appreciated. Mimosa Dragon subscribed for 10 months, just says Nina in all caps. Melissa the Defender gave out 5 tier 1 subs. Thank you very much for that. Thank you to everyone who contributed to a level 5 hype train, gifting 19 subs. Very nice of you. Yiva says, I'm so happy that I can say that we finally have a socialist government in Norway again. I think Yiva might have sent a message about that yesterday. So apparently they have tossed out the old government in Norway. I apologize, my in-depth knowledge about Norwegian politics is limited. Even though I did spend a bit of time there while making my docuseries. But anyway, Brandon Butler says Nina Turner for president 2024. Not saying anything, just saying. Brenda R says, when is the Nina Turner making her announcement? I'm assuming that's another presidential thing. Anyway, maybe we'll talk about that at some point, Senator.
I'm loving this love, John. Let me just tell you.
Well, you can count on it from the audience.
Love you guys so much.
Let's see, finally, Jonathan says, safe travels, father of dragons. Enjoy your time off, and having the epic Nina Turner on is making my day so much better. Stay awesome and safe, Dragon Squad. Thank you, Jonathan. Very nice of you. And I will very much appreciate a little bit of time off, as much as I love the job that I get to do. And so what, you know what? Let's do more of it after this. Okay, buddy, before we jump back into the news, there is one thing I forgot to do before the break, and that is that while the Nicki Minaj controversy was certainly a big one last night, having to do with the Met Gala, perhaps even bigger was Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's tax the rich dress, which I did talk about a bit in the pre-show. I understand it is controversial, although I don't necessarily understand why. And apparently the audience mostly agreed with me, although I did not expect that would be the case. Well, let's do another test. We've got a poll up right now at tyt.com/polls asking you the question, was AOC's tax the rich dress at the Met Gala a good idea or a bad idea? Very simple, just curious to see what you have to say. So go to tyt.com/polls to fill that out. And we're gonna try to get the results back to you by the end of the show today. So head over there if you want to take part. That said, Nina, you ready for some more politics?
Let's do it.
Okay, let's talk about taxes and how the Democrats are doing everything they can to not really tax the rich. Okay. Kyrsten Sinema is effectively, like Senator Manchin, the president, because if she decides that a piece of legislation shouldn't pass, I guess it's not gonna pass. And she has some issues with what's currently being debated by the Democrats right now, which is the infrastructure bill. And I happened to see a write-up about her strategy on Axios, and I had a little bit of a problem with the way they were presenting it. So let's dive into a little bit. Again, this is directly from Axios, and we'll talk a little bit more broadly about the bill. They say Senator Kyrsten Sinema is negotiating the size and scope of President Biden's $3.5 trillion budget plan, armed with her own spreadsheets about the costs and tax hikes needed for each program. People familiar with the matter tell Axios that certainly weren't sent there by her team. While Senator Joe Manchin is getting attention for balking at a $3.5 trillion top line price tag, Sinema's accountant-like focus on the bottom line will be equally important to winning the votes of them and other key Democrats. And they go on to say, Sinema's intense interest in the numbers also suggests she'll be a formidable foil for progressives like Senator Bernie Sanders, who are working to make the spending bill as big as possible. Now there's more, but Senator Turner, like Axios, basically, they would say, we just present the facts or whatever, but that sure seems like a sympathetic view of what she's doing right now. What do you think?
Yeah, if they had just laid out the fact that she has these charts, that's one thing, but the commentary surrounding this as if she is some big power player in this scenario is just, it makes me want to holler really loudly. I'm trying to save up my energy as I recover here and not use it to holler and scream about the Congresswoman Sinema. But the $3.5 trillion is a compromise. That is already the compromise position, because some were arguing for 6 trillion and others even 10 trillion. We have not done a whole lot in this nation over the last 20 years. Some might even argue 50 years, really, to really shore up the infrastructure in this nation, and to somehow pretend as though $3.5 trillion is a lot of money given the neglect over decades. That is insanity. And you know what, John, one other point. The fact that injecting that money into this economy could put so many people back to work. There's so much good that can happen here. First of all, high paying jobs, good paying jobs for things that we need in this country. These are not luxuries we're talking about. We're talking about necessities of rebuilding roads and bridges, greening along the way for the future. So it's just the way that they're positioning Congresswoman Sinema doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
I totally agree. You know, yesterday we showed Senator Manchin saying, you know, at a time when there's so much uncertainty and we've lost so many jobs, I think we need a pause. Well, if we lost jobs, I think funding infrastructure projects seems like a pretty good way to get some back. But he doesn't even engage with that idea. And Axios doesn't even really engage with their premise. The premise here is that she is just focused on the bottom line. She's basically an accountant. And she just wants to make sure that we don't spend any more that we have to. Well, first of all, I would ask you, does anyone remember that being what Kyrsten Sinema ran on? Like that was what she presented herself as? Like a fiscal conservative, really worried about the debt, not interested in tax. She presented herself as like a former Green candidate, like a progressive. That's what I remember. Where's that? And by the way, feel free, jump in.
No, I'm sorry, John. I mean, more worried about the donor class than she is about the people in this country who could use this. I want to invite Dr. Robert Reich, if I may, into our conversation, John. He says, can the media stop acting like the Dems' $3.5 trillion budget package is some incomprehensible expenditure? It's a 3.5 trillion over 10 years. Can I slip a hello somebody in there? Hello somebody. Meanwhile, we spend more than 700 billion on defense every single year. That equates to more than 7 trillion over 10 years. Where is the media outrage on that? And so let me add to what the good Dr. Robert Reich said. Where is Congresswoman Sinema or Senator Manchin's outrage over that? We need to get our priorities straight.
You're totally right. Yeah, you know, I hate that they call it the Department of Defense. It's just about defense. We're basically building walls and armor. That's all. It's the Department of Bombs. That's what it is. You know what defends people? Vaccines, safe bridges, elder care. That defends people a lot more. I'm not worried about a Canadian soldier shooting me. I am worried about, advanced illness. Have you seen my diet? It's coming. I want to make sure that the healthcare system is ready for it.
Yes, exactly.
But anyway, I would just love to hear from Senator Sinema, because this is not an accident. She sent people to Axios, or Axios just decided to do a favor for her. Okay, then if that's what you're gonna do, and it's about the spreadsheets, which program is too expensive? Which does she think needs more funding? Or is it that all of them need to be cut? Let me see what's in these actual spreadsheets, because what it sounds like is she just doesn't want to spend the money. And I could have told you that without this glossy PR write-up. I know she wants to stop the government from delivering for the people. That's not new, and it ain't about spreadsheets. She has a knee-jerk reaction to anything the government does that helps people. Sometimes she literally jerks her knees down into a little squatting thumbs down. That's what she does. Don't try to gussy it up and make her seem like some sort of like by the numbers professional. She's a reactionary who doesn't want the government to deliver for the working class. That's all it is.
That's exactly it, John. And the senator needs to get a clue. I mean, so many of these people, and thank you, I'm sorry, my apology, I referred to her as Congresswoman before. But the senator needs to really get a clue. And some of these people have lost touch. They don't live the everyday lives, or can't even, even if they did in the past, because I'm not saying that everybody that is in the Congress as a whole, whether they're on the Senate side or the House side, have never had to endure poverty. But so many of them are so far from it that they have really lost contact, have lost track. And if the dear senator really wants to get a clue, instead of doing spreadsheets, come on to Cleveland, Ohio. Cleveland is the poorest city of its size in the United States of America. I invite the senator, come on with me. And we won't have to do spreadsheets. We'll just go ahead and get a real life tour. Really, they should be there. Government is designed for us to do collectively what we cannot do as individuals. That is what it is designed to do. And some of these people do not understand that, or they just really don't care to understand that.
Yeah. And I think a visit to a bunch of different cities would be great. I think her visiting a few of the cities in Arizona wouldn't be that bad of an idea. We have a lot of viewers in Arizona, and from what they say, there's actually some problems that an infrastructure bill might fix there. Anyway, okay, so let's talk about a related issue. Another big part of the infrastructure bill is going to be how you pay about it. Because remember, the only things that are free are wars. Everything else has to be paid for. And here is the latest on what sort of tax increases the Democrats are considering and which they are not to pay for the reconciliation bill. So according to the New York Times, facing the delicate politics of a narrowly divided Congress, which is just another way of saying having to deal with Manchin, Sinema, Tester, and a few others potentially, senior House Democrats opted to be more mindful of moderate concerns in their party than of its progressive ambitions. They focused on traditional ways of raising revenue by raising tax rates on income rather than targeting wealth itself. So I look, for a lot of regular people, that doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense. What's the big difference between those two things? But there is a big difference, and we're gonna get into it. The bill dispenses with measures floated by the White House and Senate Democrats to tax wealth or to close off avenues that the super rich have exploited to pass on a lifetime of gains to their heirs tax-free. So how does this work out? Well, the richest of the rich don't actually earn much income. Like for you and I, our income is our wealth. That's what we have, and we spend it to survive. But for instance, Jeff Bezos, his salary was $81,840 in 2020. So I don't really care how much you jack up the surtax on his income. It's not gonna get much. That's not how he makes money. His vast fortune in stocks, bonds, real estate, and other assets growing largely untaxed each year, as we've been talking about. There was that big analysis by the Center for Public Integrity earlier this year. That's how he makes money. And there have been people who've been talking about a wealth tax that would affect that sort of way of building wealth over time. But as of right now, Nina, that is not what the Democrats are considering. It's very much just focused on their yearly income.
Tax. Well, I know we're gonna get into the Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez's dress. That just do what that dress said. Let's just go ahead and tax the wealthy. They need to tax. They need to tax the wealthy. We need a wealth tax in this country far too often, and not just the Bezos. I mean, even it's not just the one. It's the less than 1% that we're really talking about here, who have gained tremendously during this pandemic. But meanwhile, in the highways and byways all across this country, the people who are among the poor, the working poor, and the barely middle class continue to suffer, continue to only barely get by. And as a nation, we continue to be skittish. And I'm using we loosely, but yes, the members of the Congress, and when I say the Congress, I mean both houses of the Congress, not all, because some do have the courage to say that we must tax the wealth of the wealthiest people in this country who are not paying anything in federal taxes. Their corporations are not paying a dime in federal taxes. They are, in fact, starving. Because again, going back to my original premise, government is designed for us to do collectively what we cannot do as individuals. So we gotta have money in that pot. And who better to put money in that pot than the ultra wealthy in this country, so that we can help people pursue life, liberty, and everybody's happiness. How about that?
100%.
Let's do that.
100%. Yeah, and I'm just gonna throw this out there because people are gonna hear a lot of misinformation about wealth taxes. You're not gonna hear a lot about wealth taxes, but maybe in a few years, maybe 2024, there'll be some people who are running on wealth taxes. You know what a wealth tax does? It funds things that the working class need. You know what it doesn't do? Stop wealthy people from being wealthy. There ain't no wealth tax that's ever gonna do that. You could take the most radical wealth tax, shoot it full of the super soldier serum. They still build wealth over time. It just slows it a bit. it slows the growth of wealth of people who can buy virtually everything in the world. They can literally buy islands. They can't think of things to buy. They have so much money and they will still be getting more wealthy. We just won't be suffering as much along the way. That's all it is. But that's just me.
Even take a trip into space.
Yeah.
Jesus, Mary and Joseph. Yes, I'm 100%. Calling on Jesus, Mary, Joseph. Just take a trip into space so they can monk it up there too. I'd rather they just stay down here. We got to deal with planet Earth. Don't go up into the stratosphere, making trouble.
Yeah, or go and don't come back. One of the two. But by the way, really fast, that was just what we think about the wealth tax. Representative Bill Pascrell, a Democrat of New Jersey, says, I am very suspect of a wealth tax. I think it's perceived as soak the rich. I don't think it is, but that's how it's perceived. Oh, well, if only there was a way we could fight back against that, representative. People think things are, well, first of all, who thinks it's soak the rich? Is it the rich? I don't think a lot of working class people are like, well, come on, let's not soak the rich now. That's not how working people think. And even if some do, you're a representative. Go on TV, talk to them about it. Killing it while talking about soak the rich is hardly a way you fight back against that, if that was what you really wanted to do. And I suspect that it is perhaps not.
That's right. I mean, if some of these members of Congress are more concerned about the everyday people of the nation, they're more concerned about the ultra wealthy than they are about the teacher, the social worker, the Uber driver, the nurses. If they really were more concerned about those types of people than they are about people who are never gonna have to worry about a dime for the rest of their natural lives. And if they have children, their children and children's children and children's children and so on and so forth. But meanwhile, back in the neighborhoods and misunderstood, people are worried about things like paying their rent, their mortgage, their car note, getting the medications that they need. And oh, by the way, just putting food on the table. So how about these folks focus in on that and make that the centering? Let's change the material conditions of the poor, the working poor, and the barely middle class for a change in this country. That's
100%.
Woo, these people make me want to holler. Really.
I agree. Well, feel free. I want to hear it. Okay, we're gonna talk about one more thing before we jump to our second break, and that is the big domestic, political, legislative breaking news. The Democrats have unveiled their new voting bill, the Freedom to Vote Act. So what does this do? Well, it builds off a framework proposed by West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin, so get hyped, who had opposed an earlier sweeping measure from his party. That's a reminder. You might be thinking, wait, what do you mean they've got their new voting bill? Didn't they already have two voting bills? They had the For the People Act, and then they had the one that Joe Manchin supported. So no, now they have a new one. Okay, so what does this one do? We've got videos up explaining the others, and there was certainly a lot in the For the People Act that Senator Manchin would never approve of, and by which I mean his corporate donors would never approve of. So anyway, the revised bill would make Election Day a public holiday, ensure every state offers same-day voter registration, set minimum federal standards on mail voting, and ban partisan gerrymandering among its provisions. The bill also includes Manchin's call for a voter identification provision, but would allow voters casting ballots in person to present a broad set of identification cards and documents in hard copy and digital form, according to the statement. Now let's give the senator a chance to defend this. He says the right to vote is fundamental to our democracy, and the Freedom to Vote Act is a step in the right direction towards protecting that right for every American. As elected officials, we also have an obligation to restore people's faith in our democracy, and I believe that the common sense provisions in this bill, like flexible voter ID requirements, will do just that. Okay, so some good, and then also the voter ID stuff. Senator Turner, what do you think?
I mean, what was wrong with For the People Act and the John Lewis voting right bill? What's wrong with those two? He didn't have to go up and create a whole nother bill. That's the question that I want the dear senator to answer. Yeah, some of the things that are in that bill, yeah, they're perfectly fine. But those elements, some of those elements are in both the For the People Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. So what is wrong with those? And for elected officials like him to continue to hype up that people are just randomly going out impersonating other folks to vote, it is just not happening. Even the Brennan Center said you have a more likelihood of being struck by lightning than you do of people impersonating other folks to go vote. And furthermore, states already have rules, using the term colleagues loosely, all over this country are upending voter access. But I'm gonna put that to the side. The bottom line is that you have too many politicians like Senator Joe Manchin and others, particularly Republicans on the state level, that are getting people all amped up over something that is minimal. And even if it does exist, minimally exist, there are state laws already on the books to deal with people who may engage in voter fraud. But you know what the biggest fraud is here? All of these, all of the things that people like Senator Joe Manchin and others are doing to stop people from having access, unfettered access to the ballot box. That is the fraud.
Yeah, 100%. I'm sick of people continually playing in to the idea that our elections aren't secure when there's no evidence that they're not secure. How about we find the evidence if it comes up and then we deal with it? I feel like we could do that. Maybe we don't need to waste our time fixing problems that don't exist while also causing problems for a ton of people that are not gonna be able to provide ID no matter how flexible you make it. And by the way, you're 100% right. So we look at the good stuff in this, and it's good. It'd be great to have all those things. It should be a national holiday, although as people are pointing out in the chat, it being a national holiday does not mean that everyone gets it, which means that there should be some sort of enforcement mechanism. Like, sure, you don't have to give your workers the day off for Democracy Day, but there's a $10,000 fine for each worker you don't, or something like that. But for all the stuff that's good in here, it's in the other bills. And I don't see anything in here that's not in those other bills. So how does that make sense? It's not the same as the other bills, which means, it doesn't have stuff that's in those, like the anti-corruption measures, like the campaign finance disclosure measures, the sorts of things that wealthy donors and corporate PACs are not interested in being enshrined in law. And here at TYT, I know Jenks talked about it a lot. We've been speculating from the very beginning that there's no chance the For the People Act passes until those things are stripped out, because there's no way Joe Manchin, and not just Joe Manchin, others too, Tester potentially, there's a good number of Democrats that are there to protect the interests of their corporate overlords. They were not going to let it pass until that was stripped out. But there's one more issue with this. And that is that while Joe Manchin had all that blah, blah, blah to say about his bill, he also said yesterday, the filibuster is permanent. So good luck passing the bill, which you know won't happen as long as the filibuster's there. So that was a fun little conversation. It's not gonna happen, I guess, Turner.
This man
is not gonna get rid of the filibuster.
He playing games, just straight up. The man is playing games with democracy. He's playing games with people's lives. The history of the filibuster, it has been used most often to block civil rights advances, racial justice advances in the United States of America. And this man knows this. He is full of stuff. Fill in the blank. Fill in the blank. He is full of it, and he is playing games.
Yeah, I agree. But perhaps he messed up. Because when he said the filibuster is permanent, do you know who he's going against? A gladiator, a fighter. Joe Biden. Joe Biden's been saying in recent weeks that he'll be pressuring wavering Democrats to support reforming the filibuster if necessary to pass the voting bill. He vowed as a candidate that one of the first things he'd do is pass new legislation to protect voting rights, including restoring the landmark Voting Rights Act of 1965, which by the way isn't even a part of this bill. But according to a source briefed on the White House's position, Biden told Chuck Schumer, Chuck, you tell me when you need me to start making phone calls. And bear in mind, his position on reforming or removing the filibuster has been evolving. In early March, Jen Psaki said Biden didn't support any changes to the filibuster. A few weeks later, Biden told ABC News that he supported bringing back the so-called talking filibuster, which by the way, Joe Manchin has also said and then forgets conveniently. Forcing any senator who wanted to block a vote to stand and speak on the Senate floor, like you see in movies. A few months after that, Psaki declined to say whether Biden backed creating a carve out to the filibuster for legislation related to voting rights, while also distancing the White House from any potential negotiations about filibuster reform. So Now he's gonna start pressuring supposedly. What do you think? Is that gonna get through to Joe Manchin?
The term reform the filibuster, those two words shouldn't go together. The filibuster must go. How you gonna reform something that is wrong to begin with? And it is holding up. I mean, I want folks to understand that having that filibuster means that every good thing that may come from the House of Representatives, that other side of the Congress, is dead on arrival in the Senate unless we get rid of the filibuster. And these folks, John, know good daggone well the history of the filibuster, and yet they all want to play games. And you know what else? Memo. A lot of these folks are hiding behind Joe Manchin. Make no mistake about it. Let's just go ahead and have that conversation if we're willing and able. That they are hiding behind President Joe Manchin.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's why, like, I despise Joe Manchin, I despise Kyrsten Sinema, especially, both. No, especially Kyrsten Sinema because she presented herself as a progressive. Joe Manchin has never presented himself as a progressive, although he has lied, as he has lied about the talking filibuster, as he lied earlier this year when he said he wanted $4 trillion in infrastructure spending. There's a lot of lies to go around, but Sinema fundamentally lied about what her ideology was. But that said, at least they're showing us that they're willing to grind everything to a halt. They're willing to make Biden a president in name only with no actual power. But there's other moderate Democrats, and I hate that term. There is nothing moderate about what they're doing that are just as bad, that are certainly making threats behind the scenes, but they're not willing to actually put themselves out there. So at the very least, we can attack them. Just bear that in mind. Great point by Senator Turner there. Now, that said, we are gonna take our second break, but when we come back, we're gonna be giving you updates on Larry Elder. Today is the California recall, but one candidate has already declared defeat, so that's fun. We'll be giving you those details as well as what QAnon thinks is riding on this California recall after this. Okay, everybody. First of all, I want to welcome new YouTube members, Nina, Sticky Green Dragon, and Andrew Filason. Thank you for being members. You get access to the badge and the emojis there. Okay, Snow White sent in a super chat saying Nina for president. There's been a lot of that sentiment. There's been a bunch. Let's see. Bernie the Kiwi Dragon says, a titan among us. What a fantastic surprise today. How did you manage to keep this secret, John? Hello from the UK, Nina. You are a fountain of inspiration. I wish we had someone like you over here.
Oh, hello. Nice. That is beautiful.
That is beautiful. Let's see. Max says, Nina, you're an inspiration, and I'm so happy to see you here with Johnny Pie. What a great Tuesday. Thank you. Okay. Alan says, can you imagine the look on Ivanka's face at seeing AOC present at the Met when she wasn't invited? That's pretty fun. Yeah. Anyway, we'll talk more about that. Roger Harris says, Senator Turner, what is your favorite food? Because I'm gonna cook it in solidarity of you gracing us with your presence on today's show.
Oh, Lord, have mercy. Well, I'm gonna start with something you don't have to cook. My all-time favorite fruit are cherries.
I would not have guessed that. I appreciate the cherry.
Oh my God, I love the cherry. I'm gonna have to come back on the favorite.
Okay.
Favorite food.
Fun thing with cherries, it's a food and an activity because of the pit. You feel like you're doing something, Some days that's the only thing I do. Anyway, Greg Gillum
says, so good for you though. They're so good for you.
They are and sweet, yeah. Greg Gillum says, lived in Phoenix 20 years and voted for Sinema at local and state levels. She was young and progressive. Now she's beholden to Wall Street crowd and turned fiscal conservative. Ugh. Yeah. And look, I know she said things years ago that sounded good, but remember Pete Buttigieg wrote that op-ed about Bernie a billion years ago? People change.
Yes, and sometimes not in the right. I mean, I think evolution is a beautiful thing, but sometimes we don't all evolve in the right direction.
That's true.
Yeah, change is a constant in the universe, so we just want to lay that out there, right?
100%. We have to bear in mind the survival of the griftiest. Anyway, Nana Nikki says, I've been ill for, well, I mean, look, that's just me saying that, but I'm not transportation secretary, so I guess he understands the system better than I do. Anyway, Nana Nikki says, I've been ill for a week and lost a friend and neighbor on Friday to COVID. Tested negative yesterday, but if you don't know, don't assume it's just a bad cold. Stay home when you're sick, period. Heart you, TDR and Nina.
Yeah, condolences too.
Yeah. Yeah, very sad. We've had a lot of audience members over the year and a half have lost people close to them, as I have, as well as many people have.
Yeah.
Matthias says Sinema ran as a progressive. Why aren't they questioning her? Fund the IRS. See Ro Khanna's bill for 1.2 trillion year over year. Yeah, and the additional funding for the IRS seems like it's being stripped out of this. That was a great bill. There's other forms of the bill as well, but Ro Khanna's was good. Not funding the IRS is like the most blatant. Sorry, what were you saying?
Yeah, because they won't have enough money to go ahead and see what the wealthy, ultra wealthy are up to. I don't want to shout out. Yesterday was Congressman Ro Khanna's birthday.
Oh, was
so
it?
I want to say happy birthday to him.
That's awesome. That's awesome. We need to have Ro Khanna back on. We haven't had a congressman on a number of years. He used to come on like every couple of months to talk about the fight to get us out of Yemen and everything. We got to reach out to him again. Okay, let's see. Macho Gavacho says, "Eat the rich." We'll hold. Let's soak them for now. Let's talk. Honestly, like I understand.
Who wants to eat the rich? That's not tasty.
No, eat cherries, not the rich. Tax the rich. Don't tax cherries. Expensive enough as it is. Most fruit is.
Yes, they are.
Anyway, okay, so we got a little bit more for you coming up after this. Denise White, I see you becoming a tier 1 YouTube member. Thank you for that. Before we jump back into our last story of this first hour, reminder, the poll is up at tyt.com/polls. We wanna know what you think about AOC's tax the rich dress. As I said, I talked about in the pre-show. I'm just gonna come out. I came in today expecting everybody hated it. The right hates it, the centrists hate it because it's AOC, and a lot of leftists hate it. Honestly, I was shocked by the audience's response, but we'll see with the poll. You can go to tyt.com/polls and let me know what you think about it. Also, a reminder that we've still got a good bit of TDR, but as soon as the show is over, the day is not, and the fun continues with Indisputable. You've got J.R. Jackson and Adrian Lawrence are taking over. I just saw that now. Dr. Rashad apparently is out for the day, but he will be back. He's off working on something, and we'll let you know soon about this project. With Dr. Richey, you never know. I don't know. He's being honored by the White House. There's Dr. Rashad Richey Day in his state. Like God only knows what he's working on, but I'm sure it's something awesome. But Indisputable does continue, and you can watch it at youtube.com/indisputable TYT. Oh, by the way, there's also gonna be some exciting news at TYT. You can watch 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific on YouTube and Twitch and everywhere else. An exciting, important announcement. I won't say what, I won't spoil it. I've been trying not to, but it's coming up. Anyway, with that, why don't we close out this hour? We're gonna launch right into this video.
You win or lose, will you accept the results of the election tomorrow?
I think we all ought to be looking at election integrity, no matter whether you're a Democrat, an independent, or a Republican.
Is that a commitment to accept the results of the election tomorrow?
Let's all do that together. Let's all work together on both sides of the aisle to make sure that the election is a fair election.
Is that a commitment to accept the results of the election tomorrow?
Let's all work together to find out whether or not the election tomorrow is a fair election. Let's all work together to do that.
So that is not a commitment to accept the results of the election tomorrow?
Boy, Jacob, honestly, I answered your question.
No, you didn't. You very much did not answer his question, Larry Elder. But I think everybody watching knows what the answer is, and in fact, that's what the answer was, as you'll see soon. But before we launch into, it's election day, the recall of Gavin Newsom or the attempted recall of Gavin Newsom, Larry Elder is apparently the front-running challenger, although there are many, and so it's possible that if you're watching this live or as soon as it goes up, there might still be time to vote, and you definitely should. Don't back off of democracy, or the right will destroy it. But that said, Nina Turner, what do you think about Larry Elder seeming to be playing from the Donald Trump book of just deny that any election you don't win is legit?
Seemingly, you're being kind. I mean, the answer was, look, if I win, it was legitimate. If I don't win, it's illegitimate. That's it. I mean, that's basically what Larry Elder is saying. And again, stoking up people's fears about the lack of integrity in the electoral process. He's showing a lack of integrity right there.
Yeah, 100%. And look, that's just what they're all gonna do now. Larry Elder wants to be a Republican, and so you have to say that every election is stolen. And not to say that that's totally new. I mean, there hasn't been a presidential election in my life, no matter which way it went, that some of the people who wanted the other person didn't think that it was stolen. That's always been around. But I do think what's new is having an entire party effectively, and a media apparatus agreeing that democracy, you can't trust it, you probably shouldn't want it anyway. It's probably not gonna allow us to continue permanent white conservative rule of America, so let's dispense with it. And every election that we don't win is illegitimate. And so he is just the latest instance of it. He told reporters last Wednesday that he believes, quote, there might very well be shenanigans in the recall election, which sounds fun. But there he's talking about stealing an election. He says so many Americans are, or so many Californians are angry about what's going on that he expects to win anyways. But that said, with the election not even over yet, it appears that he's conceded defeat. Last Wednesday, he said he's gonna win no matter what. But if you look at his website, it's pretty clear he doesn't expect to. So what do we mean by that? Well, a link on his website labeled as report election incident takes users to a form to report incidents of voter fraud and sign a petition to investigate the results of the recall. It also states that if there is an audit of the recall, county election officials should not be a part of the recount, saying that doing so would allow an alleged criminal to examine the crime scene. It also claims that, quote, statistical analyses used to detect fraud in elections held in third world countries such as Russia, Venezuela, and Iran have detected fraud in California, resulting in Governor Gavin Newsom being reinstated as governor. But it's not even over yet. You fool, like roll that out right after. That would be pathetic. This is really pathetic that you know you're gonna lose and you're already lying about the results.
Good grief. I mean, to quote a great cartoon, a great cartoon character. Lord have mercy. I am running out of things to say about these people, John. It makes no sense. First of all, they have totally abused the recall process. It was not set up and designed to be used in the way that it is. And not only is it wasting time, it's wasting millions of dollars right now that could be used in other ways in the great state of California. You know, there's a difference between talking about dark money and big money interests coming in to influence an election in ways that it ordinarily would not be influenced. It is another thing to say that I am already going to predetermine based on polling, based on a feeling that I have that I am going to lose. And so now before I actually lose, I'm gonna lay out for you that there is some type of wholesale fraud, voter fraud going on. And let's be suspicious of the person to our left and also to our right. It is irresponsible what Mr. Elder and his campaign is doing right now.
100%. Yeah, making people not just question, but believe, I just want my guy to win. He can do whatever he wants. The other guys are fundamentally evil, they're Satanists, whatever. No, you're 100% right. The system is messed up in a million different ways and we need to fight to fix it. But you can't just focus on understanding it's broken. You have to do the actual fighting. And they're driving people out of politics, and not just people like Larry Elder. You see it a lot. And that's why I've always told the audience, like, if you ever feel like watching this show, watching me is leading to you becoming apathetic, turn it off as fast as you can, because that should be the last thing that any endeavor like this should be producing. We have got to engage with it. It is busted up in a million different ways, and the opponents that we face are wealthy beyond imagination. They're powerful, they're well connected. It is a very scary thing to go up against, but we have to go up against it or we're never gonna fix it.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. Now, why is he preemptively declaring defeat? Well, it might be because new polling has shown that while the election was actually close, it is not now. And that's not to say that Gavin Newsom won't lose. And by the way, I don't even like Gavin Newsom, but I don't want Larry Elder as governor. But right now the polling shows Newsom up by like almost 16 points. So bear that in mind. Yeah, so he apparently believes that he is going to lose, but he wants to continue the grift. He is going to ride it out, telling people that it was stolen. That's what Trump has been doing for like a year. But going forward, assuming that this election ends the way it seems like it's going to, why is this so important for some? I don't just mean people who care about who's gonna be the governor. I mean people outside of California altogether. Well, you may not know this, but the QAnon community is very interested in what happens with California and the recall. Why is that? Well, in the lead up to the recall, Anons, the people who believe in that conspiracy theory, glommed onto a December 2018 Q post. Q is the guy that supposedly knew what was going on. It was just some weirdo online. But anyway, someone asked him, will voter fraud in California ever be brought to light? And he responded, watch California. I know what you're thinking. That is highly specific. But anyway, 3 years later, there's the recall. And so they have convinced themselves that California will be stolen, that Newsom will rig the vote, it will become public, and it will be so clear that they stole the election and that they stole the November election in California because they believe that Trump won California, that will result in Donald Trump becoming president again. Now, maybe these are just some random weirdos. Maybe it's millions of Americans fundamentally believe insane stuff. But going into this recall, that is what some people are saying online.
I mean, being delusional is real. It really, this definitely serves no purpose again, but to get people amped up, hyped up on matters that they shouldn't be amped up about, especially in terms of the integrity of the election, the electoral process. Yeah, there are many things that we need to fix. We need to provide more funding in states so that they have the most up-to-date equipment. It really is a shame that your smartphone changes quicker than the technology, to make sure that states have all the equipment that they need to make sure that elections are accessible. We should be pushing for people to participate and not amping people up in very negative ways that does not serve the overall democracy. And guess what? If these people got some real evidence, let's show the real evidence. But to do things like this is just a total disservice for anybody that believes that elections should be, that we should be expanding and protecting the right to vote and not, using all of this energy and money and time to get people hyped up in such a negative fashion. So again, to me, this is all delusion. This delusional folks making a process that is not good in the first place. Again, I will say this one more time. The way that recall is being used in California is not what it was designed. It was not designed to be used for somebody's frivolous, we don't like the person in the office because he wants people to wear masks, et cetera, et cetera. Yep. So we're gonna recall this person. That's not what 100%. It was designed to do.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm glad that you focused on actual things we can do. Because one of the things that sucks so much about this narrative about all the elections being rigged is like it drains the energy from actual reforms. We can make our elections secure and convenient. For the recall, they just sent me a ballot to my house and I sent it back. I didn't request it, sent it out. Super simple and secure. That's how easy voting should be. My wife and I just realized, oh, here's our ballot, and we sent it back. That's what we should be aiming for. We can actually do that, but unfortunately there are those who are standing between us and that convenient and secure of a democracy. Well, in any event, that is going to be the end of the first hour of TDR. Thank you to our linear audience. If you're on Twitch and YouTube, we do have more coming for you. We're gonna take a short break, but we'll be back after this. Welcome back to the Damage Report, everybody, with me, John Iadarola, and Nina Turner. The first time, but you know what? I looked at the response and the audience, I think, is into it.
I'm so glad to hear that because I'm into it. So that's beautiful.
That's awesome. Glad to have you here. Okay, so everybody, we got some more news we're gonna be talking about, but before we get to that, we did want to give you the results of our poll. So let's talk briefly about this. At the Met Gala yesterday, there were a couple of politicians there. Carolyn Maloney was wearing a dress with some messages about things like women's rights, and Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was there as well. And I believe we have a photo of her dress that we can put up. Everybody has seen it already, let's be clear, but it says tax the rich. Apparently was a dress that was donated to her. She's got some messages up on Instagram about the designer of it and how it was lent to her and everything. But whether it's the dress or her being there at all, it did generate a lot of controversy online. So just briefly, what did you think when you saw that the representative had been at the Met Gala?
Tax the rich. I'm just focusing in on the message. I thought that was brilliant and very creative between her and the designer. I'm not sure whose idea it was, but since she was going, she might as well go ahead and put out a strong political message. So yeah. I enjoy it.
Yeah, like you only have room for a couple words. If I was there, the dress would say "Bring back dark crystal," but we only have a few words, and so she used what she had. But anyway, look, she's obviously getting attacked by the right. No one's surprised by that. No. You have a lot of right-wing men that are consumed by a toxic combination of rage and lust every time that they see her, so they love to attack. That's what they're gonna do. Centrists despise her, so they're gonna attack her. But there were a good number of leftists on Twitter that weren't fans of it either. So when I talked about it and when we did this poll, which we're gonna get to, I expected that it would be, we asked you, good idea, bad idea. I thought it would be 2/3 bad idea, 1/3 good idea, that it was tone deaf and all that. But I don't know if we've ever had a poll with results like this. 96.93% of you said good idea, 3.07 said bad. So kind of a consensus there. And I'm honestly shocked. I'm just, man, Twitter sometimes is really different than other parts of your life, I'm coming to realize, Nina.
Very different, not just a little different, really different. I'm not shocked. I figured it was gonna go that way. Listen, she decided to go, and since she went, she made good use of going there. She sent a message, a very strong message, and it's something that is very much relevant to what we're debating overall in American society right now. So again, I thought it was a brilliant idea to utilize a moment in this way. So kudos to the Congresswoman. And look, people can always find something to complain about. The one thing that I don't like about social media is that people spend an inordinate amount of time, casting judgment, on other folks when they could be using that energy to do something good in the world.
Exactly. Like Ted Lasso said, don't be judgmental, be curious. Because if you're curious, you'll ask questions. Questions like, so she's saying tax the rich, what does she do? She tries to tax the rich. That's what she's trying to do, right? And she went to the Met Gala yesterday, and now she's back working on the infrastructure bill and trying to make sure that the rich get taxed. Like if Sinema went to the Met Gala wearing tax the rich, yes, that would be frustrating because she clearly doesn't actually want to do that. But AOC not only wants to and is consistent in the messaging, she's actually trying to make them tax more.
Yes. Hello, somebody.
Hello, somebody, hashtag tax the rich. Okay, thank you to everybody who participated in the poll, much appreciated. Okay, with that, we've got some time. Let's talk about a few more things. Let's, like we in the last part of the show, we always have a lot of videos that are a little bit difficult sometimes to watch. So as always, bear that in mind. So as we launch in this video.
Okay, you're a customer. You can leave me alone. Yeah, and you can leave me alone. Okay, I'm doing my job. I'm Instacarting. Okay, you wasn't here 15 minutes ago. Okay, I do Instacart. I'm doing my Instacart, and he walked up behind me. Okay, you can look at the cameras. I used to work for Kroger's. I know what I'm talking about. Okay, yeah. He walked up on me. Are you gonna scan this? I didn't even get to scan 3 things. I hear you, sir. I'm pissed off because I'm already pissed off with my order. But him walking up behind me, telling people to guard the door, ain't nobody never did that to me. Before you walked up, the dude with the dreads, okay? Before you walked up, he was talking to somebody already, okay? Leave me alone. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. You walking away when you could have walked away 10 minutes ago, service desk, floor supervisor, payroll, and then you, my daughter, don't worry about my daughter, okay? As you can see, I can say whatever I want to say. If I ain't insulting your race, you don't tell me what to do. But I'm calm down. Leave me alone.
We don't need to hear. That's all we're saying.
I can talk. You can tell them to stop talking to me. If they stop talking to me, I won't even be this loud, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. I know I'm right. I'm doing my job. I ain't even get this. Look, I scanned the. Did you know what happened before you took your big belly ass up over here and talk? You still right here. Drink your beer. It ain't even 1 o'clock in the afternoon with your drunk ass.
So that was a video that was recorded by TikToker Dikatopa0 at a Kroger store in Dallas. And basically it's what it looks like in the video. She is an Instacart employee, she's black. And these white men apparently began harassing her while she was checking out one of the orders that she was doing for Instacart, implying that she was going to steal something rather than just living their lives and shutting up or waiting to see. They just assumed she would be robbing the place and they felt like it was their job, not even employees of the store, just random customers to get involved. What do you think?
Because of course, if you're a black woman or a black person in a store, you must be a thief. Outrageous, and I'm trying to keep it PG. I was very disturbed by that, and also by the way that it appears. Again, there may be some other angles, some other things that we do not know. So that's why I'm putting that out there. That the workers appeared to be questioning her more than they were trying to get down to the bottom of why is this woman being harassed by them? Why aren't they minding their business in the same way that she was minding her business? And I just want to share a story with the viewers here that John Crawford III was in a Walmart outside of the Dayton area a few years ago, and weapons were being sold in this Walmart. And he was on the phone, I believe, with his girlfriend or his fiance, and some white person called the police on him, saying that he had a weapon. He's about 27 years old. Well, yeah, he did have a weapon that he picked up in the store because it's being sold. And guess what happened to John Crawford III? He was killed. Killed because some random person in that store called the police on him. Now, I know that this is not an exact comparison, John, but when I saw that video and people dipping in where it is none of their business and the impact that could have on somebody's life in the long term. Now, I hope that woman doesn't lose her job because we don't know what the impact of that may be. Yeah. Because she responded to the way she was being treated. And somehow she may get penalized for that. So people need to be careful before they start situations like this. Is it really worth it? So people understand this, the whole microaggressions, how black people are just treated in general and always assumed to be the person that is in the wrong before you truly understand what's going on. And rarely given the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, I'm glad that you pointed out, again, we don't know everything that happened, but not only did the guys harassing her not give her the benefit of the doubt, assume that they know what she's gonna do, but it did seem as if the employees were questioning her more harshly. And that is hardly the first time we've seen that in a video like this. They're becoming more common and the trends are becoming very easy to follow. You're right, in this case, she didn't end up dying. Hopefully she won't lose her job. But even if it doesn't rise to that level, you get to live your life. We do not need to be a country of busybodies, or even worse, racially motivated busybodies.
And whether they know it or not, John, and I'm sorry to jump in, whether people know it about implicit and explicit biases, it's all how we are socialized in this nation. So before people start saying, oh, you don't know, listen, we are all socialized a certain way in the United States of America and also in the world. We're socialized, and that socialization becomes automatic, whether you are Black or white or Hispanic or Asian or the swirl in between. And so we must consciously deconstruct our construction, like check ourselves to make sure that we are not acting out on some social constructs that have been pre-programmed into us, that we are doing these things on the subconscious level. Yeah. Now, some of these people are doing this stuff consciously, but others of these folks are doing them subconsciously and they don't recognize it.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. And they're both terrible. And we need to fight back socially and individually against both. By the way, Kentucky Progressive Dragon on Twitch says Ahmaud Arbery was killed because someone thought he was responsible for break-ins. Yeah,
that is
he wasn't.
True.
He was jogging. Yeah.
That's right.
Oh man, I want to read one last comment. This is from I believe from the woman who recorded the video. She said, "I don't need my kids growing up thinking they can't move and be them, period, because of their skin color or because of how they act or because they're speaking their mind." Explaining why she felt like she needed to vigorously defend herself. But she doesn't need to explain it.
That's right.
I can't even imagine continually being hounded everywhere I go in this way. Okay, with that, I'm gonna read just a couple quick comments, then we're gonna jump into another important story. Another reminder that Indisputable will be coming up, but I almost said Dr. J.R. Jackson. J.R. Jackson will be taking over for Dr. Rashad Ritchie. I saw him tweet. He said, "Oh damn, Rashad handed me the keys to the Ferrari today as I fill in for him on Indisputable. This might be getting out of hand. We've got JR Wednesdays, Fridays, and now JR Tuesday." Dr. Rashad Ritchie responded, "I am honored to have you drive the Ferrari." I like that. That's a good metaphor. Finally, let's see on YouTube, Denise White and Ramon Riley Jr. became members. Thank you so much to both of you. Glad to have you part of the community. Okay, Progressive Revolt says in the super chat, Nina Turner, Killer Mike 2024. The push for a run continues.
Oh, I love it. I just don't know if the country or the world, baby, or the universe is ready for that combination.
We'll see. We'll see.
TNT and the one and only Michael Render, AKA Killer Mike. Woo!
Could get in trouble.
Oh man, you talk about making good trouble. That's good trouble right there.
Feel free to make the announcement here on the show. We could provide a platform. Kai Wee says, so I think these are super chats about the dress. Kai B says, "I prefer she wears it than not. People seem to think it's virtue signaling because they believe that you can't change the system from within, but I admire her use of the bully pulpit just like Nina." Yeah, I get that, like, going into a place like that is not conceived to be a leftist space seems weird, but why not spread the message everywhere?
Why not? I mean, that's what we're supposed to be doing, not just talking to the people in the choir.
Yeah, that's what I do. Just talking to people in the choir.
She was using that environment to make a statement that is necessary, and John, that you earlier made reference to, that she's actually working on with other folks in that Congress.
Yeah, virtue signaling, I think, is bad if you do not actually possess that virtue.
That's right.
She does. So as annoying as virtue signaling might be, there's a lot of vice signalers out there. That's worse, I think. But anyway, Moondragon says we heart AOC and hold her accountable. Juan Jalapena, John Pena says, Nina, would it be possible to put some attention on Texas 28 district, providing some feedback to the two progressive candidates on proceeding and any folly that may come? I'm concerned about a split for the progressives vote. I'm not sure if you're familiar about those particular candidates off the top of my head. I don't know that district off the top of my head.
No, I'm not that familiar, but thank you for bringing that up, and I'll take a look.
Exactly. Okay, let's see. Leilu Dragonfly says, Nina, I've greatly enjoyed your commentary today, and I hope to see you again on TDR. As always, love you, John.
If John has me back, I don't know.
I've got spreadsheets. I'm looking at analytics. We'll see. We'll see the bottom line. We'll see. Will there be a thumbs down? I don't know. You'll have to stay tuned to find out. Okay, but with that, let's turn to something unfortunately really bad. Sorry. Maybe we can end the show with some fun, but for now, it's gonna get a bit dark, so let's jump into this. NPR has concluded an analysis that has shown that the federal government is selling homes to unsuspecting buyers that are very much at risk of flooding, which can be devastating, especially if you just purchased a home. This NPR investigation finds that the homes that HUD sells, is the Housing and Urban Development Department, they're disproportionately located in flood-prone places compared with Zillow records of all homes sold in the US. The agency does not fully disclose the potential costs and dangers of living at risk of flooding. And some of these transactions have happened as local governments are buying out properties in the same area to mitigate flood risk. So some of the local governments are literally buying property to stop people from living there because it's so dangerous and risky to do so, while the federal government is trying to get people to move into those areas. But when we say that it's disproportionate, it's not slightly more disproportionate. Between 2017 and 2020, HUD sold nearly 100,000 homes around the country. Homes that were sold by HUD between January 2017 and August of last year are in federally designated flood zones at almost 75 times the rate of all homes sold nationwide in that period, which almost seems as if you couldn't reach those numbers unless that's the only thing you were trying to do. I'm not saying it's that bad, but the effect is that bad. When you don't tell people, or you tell them about the flood risk so late in the process that they've already done their down payment, they've already gone through the whole process, they're mentally and emotionally invested, knowing that they could be ruined if the house ends up getting flooded, as it is likely to do in these areas. What do you think, Nina?
Yeah, that's right, John, and shout out to NPR for the wonderful story, shedding light on this. And it's important to know that this conundrum did not start just with the current administration, but the current administration can do something to fix it. It has been going on for a long time, unfortunately. It also appears that the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing in terms of state and local governments not knowing that while they are trying to prevent people from buying such properties, the federal government through HUD is incentivizing, but pushing people to buy said properties. And poorer people who are more likely than not to be the ones, or the working poor, working people to buy these homes are the ones who have the greatest risk, because number one, flood insurance is very, very expensive. And number two, as you just pointed out, John, a lot of them don't know of the enormous risk before they have signed on the dotted line. So that should not be happening. And so we do need more coordination across governments, and as both local, regional, state, and federal, all governments should be involved in this. And also to make sure the federal departments are communicating. For example, FEMA, for example, and HUD should have a very, very close relationship when it comes to flood zone.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, totally. And just think about the damage that can be done to you financially. It's going to be more difficult to eventually sell the home if that's what you're trying. And all of this is happening not just in like a great time to be a home buyer in the United States. It's devastating in a million other ways that we talk about. So people are desperate. And so if the home is in a flood area, maybe it's a bit cheaper. We need to be protecting people from potentially not just destroying their own finances, but the finances of future generations. You can wipe out all your wealth as a result of this. There's health consequences as well. And it's a reminder, by the way, that departments like HUD and transportation, sometimes they just throw people in there who don't necessarily know about this stuff, but it is critically important for hundreds of thousands, for millions of people, that these departments are well staffed by experts who understand and will engage with the actual issues under their purview. And this has been going on for years. I don't see any data here from before January 2017, but I have a hard time believing it started in January 2017. So while this was going on under Donald Trump, I don't see any reason to believe that it began under Donald Trump. But perhaps it can end under President Biden if people put pressure on the administration.
That is the promise and the problem, John. That is exactly it, and it should end. And let's talk about the effects that people have that you can't replace, pictures and other family heirlooms, that if those things are destroyed in flood, they'll never get those things back. And your point about wealth, most Americans build their wealth through home ownership. And if they have offspring, they will pass that on to the next generation. That is it. So your biggest investment is also your biggest debt. And it is absolutely devastating. So no one should be preying on people in desperate situations, especially the federal government. So let's go and get this together. Promising the problem, John. They can fix this right now. Let's do it.
100%. Before we close things out, I am going to give you a bit of homework. First of all, you'll encourage NPR to do more analyses like this by going to NPR and reading the details. There's a lot more information that we weren't able to get to. And then also, I vaguely remembered, so I Googled it. Back in 2017, John Oliver had a great episode on flooding and flood insurance and the damage it can do to homes, how it wipes out generational wealth and all that. So go back and watch that too. It's a serious issue we need to understand, among all the other things. I know some people think that as the oceans rise, you can just sell the home. That's what Ben Shapiro says. That's not actually how it works out in practice.
Ben.
Ben being Ben.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, on that note, that's gonna be all the time we have for this episode of the Damage Report. But I wanna thank Nina Turner so much. Thank you for joining us. It has been an absolute pleasure to break down politics with you.
Pleasure was all mine, John.
Thank you. Until next time, where can people follow your work? See what you're up to.
Yeah, go to @NinaTurner on Twitter, Nina Turner Ohio on the gram, and Nina Turner on Facebook.
Awesome, Nina. Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Thank you. You as well.
And for those of you at home, thank you for joining us for this episode. I have, I think, a little bit less than a minute. I'm gonna read just a couple of comments. Let's see. Lisa Dodson sent in a super chat saying, "Trust me, we in Arizona are pissed and will vote her out." I hope so. Jessica Long says, "Democracy doesn't die in the dark; it dies in the Senate." That's true, but with dark money. Let's see. Stickman Grit says, "Catapultism, eat the rich." Jesus. Okay, let's see. Jessica says, "Not to mention they sell very high flood insurance coverage in these areas." Yeah, as Nina pointed out, it's very expensive. Barrel Age Millennial says, "Instead of courage, Sinema and others are there slowly selling more of America's exceptionalism to the highest bidder and for their own personal gain." That's true. Thank you to Brandy Lou and for Tandy B, both of which gave out 5 tier 1 subs. Thank you to both of you. Andy Joe subscribed for 6 months. Thank you. More books, please, for 4 months. I agree. I'd like more books. Thank you for being here, though. Thank you for everybody. I'm gonna remind you, though, I am going to be heading out until next Tuesday. Until then, Francesca is going to be taking over. You got Big News Wednesday with J.R. Jackson coming up tomorrow. Brett is gonna be taking over and throwing out the political garbage of the week on Friday. So a lot to look forward to. Please give them a warm welcome. I'm gonna miss you guys while I'm gone, but I'm also very happy that I'm gonna be leaving for a bit. With that said, until next time, stay safe out there, stay sane out there, and I'll see you soon.